Hi guys, and welcome back for another episode. As you can see, the religion wasn't quite for me, so I've gotten rid of it. Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks and I had to keep the bandages on to keep it dry for 4 to 5 days, and so that's come off now and it is healing fine. I've got to see the nurse on Monday. I'd just like to thank everybody who's said to look after myself and be careful. I try to be careful, just sometimes I don't think when I'm doing it, especially stuff outside. So anyway guys, this one's is a revisit to some stuff we did before. The one I was doing the video on the Spectra video recently, this is the one that had the keyboard error and it had keys that weren't working. So what I'm going to do is I've got my other one that I did that the HDMI is going in. Now that's a plug-in cable as well. So what I'm going to do is take that one, plug it into this one and see if it fixes the problem. If it does, we know that it's definitely the keyboard. If it doesn't, then we know it's on the board and we've got to go a bit further into it. We will have a look and see what is going on there. So anyway, that's enough prattling on from me, and this video is a shortish one, and it's about repairing this keyboard issue and getting this machine up and running, so then I can put it all back together and it'll be put into the group of machines I'm going to move on. So guys, grab yourself a drink, something to snack on if you want to, a nice comfy chair, not too comfy now, and let's get on with it. Right guys, so what I'm going to do with this one has issues with the keyboard. This is the second one of the 328s that I had that had issues. The keys that I've found out that are not working are this key, the ampersand, the enter, the up, the down, the left, the right, 7, 8, 9, 4 and 5, and that's it. The others seem to work. I don't know if a print and select have an issue or not, because print only works with a printer, but I'm not getting any keyboard sound to say that the key was pressed, so they may be all part of the issue that I'm having up here. What I'm going to do is I'll unplug this keyboard and I'll plug in another one that I've made connectable and see if it makes any difference, and from there then we'll know whether it is the keyboard that's got a problem or whether it's the connector on the board. So we'll do that. So I'll get another keyboard and replace the one that's on here. So here's the other keyboard. This is the one off the one I'm putting the VDP into, the HDMI one. So I know this keyboard works fine on that machine. So this is the one we're going to put into to replace this one. So I'll just open it up and unplug the connector. So just unplugged all that. I'll plug this one in, and then what we'll do is we'll give it a go and see if this one works better than the other one. I'm just going to put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing for this closer stuff. Right. I'll turn it on. Now this is what I was saying with the Spectra videos at times, with the plugs on the side here, these ones that are on the ends here. See, now I've pulled that up and it's booted. Now if I sit that down, it's going to turn itself off. These sockets, the pins get widened on these plugs, and when they go into the socket on here, they get a bit loose, and when you move it around, see, I've just put it down now, it's rebooted itself. So that's telling me that socket is a little bit dodgy. Right, so now do a clear screen. So let's try up, down, left, right. 6, 3, 2, 1. Yeah. So those seem to be working, and the up, down, left and right keys are working. Now the enter key on here is working, and the ampersand on here is working. So that to me points to the other keyboard has got a fault. What I think we need to do is have a look at that other keyboard, meter it out, and see where the fault is, whether it is one pin, it could be a broken connection, or it could be in the membrane underneath. It could be something's gotten underneath it and gotten dirty. I'll turn this one off, and so what we'll do is I'll unplug it, just so I've got some room on the bench, and I'll unplug. So now we know that this one's alright. I'll unplug that, and I just put that one back out of the way so I don't get them mixed up. And this is the one that came off it that some of the pins aren't working on. So this is one we need to have a look at. Unplug all that. So what I need to do is I'll get the meter. And what I'm going to do is with the meter, I'll put it on continuity. And what we do on continuity, I'll measure it from here to the connector where it goes through and into the border, the keyboard itself. So I'll measure each of these to each of their corresponding pins along here and see if there's any that don't actually come up as being connected. Now if all these show a connection, then it's got to be under here that's the issue. Alright, so I'll get on and do this. Right, and so as we saw there, each of those connections are fine, there's nothing wrong with them. So what I'm going to do is I'll take this board off now, and I'll check all the contacts underneath to see if they're making a good connection or not, or whether they've got muck on them or something like that. So there may have been something that's gotten on the rubber pad or on the copper tracks or the carbon tracks that are on the board. So I'll go through and check those now. Right, so one thing I do say to you guys and I recommend is before you take the screws out of this, you'll see on here I've got black dots next to these holes. These are all the holes that had the screws in them on the that are on the side here, so that when I go to put it back in, I know which holes they go in, because as you can see on the back there's a lot of holes and you could get mucked up which ones go where. With the cable, there's a couple of hidden below the ribbon cable as well. You can get to it going this way, but I don't like putting too much tension on them, so they'll actually pop up between the wires easy enough. I go along with a permanent marker and I dot next to each of the holes a screw's got to go into. So therefore, if you have any left over, you know that, okay, there's a hole somewhere I haven't gotten one in. Do that. It'll save you a lot of time. Alright, so I've got this undone now, so we'll just pry this off gently. Now the thing to remember is when you do take this off, under here is the LEDs with the power and the caps lock. So just be careful with those, you don't want to break them. They're just standard 5mm rectangular, so you can replace them if you want to. It's up to you. Years ago I personalised my original one of these I had, and I changed the colour of the rectangular LED to a blue, I think it was, for power. But it wasn't original, but it's up to you what you want to do. So I'm pretty sure when I did this I took it apart and cleaned it. So I'm picking it's going to be under one of these. That's given me a problem. So what I can do is, with this out now, I can put the main machine up, get it so the power's in there properly, turn it on, and then I can try these keys to find out if it's here or not, because it's easy enough to pop this up and check. So I mean, all the gold contacts look pretty good, so I'm picking it's probably on the carbons underneath here. So I will move this out the way, and I'll turn it over and put it to the side, put it over to the side, so I can see the keys that I need to press on the base piece, so I know which ones are which. Now I'll get the base. This is the base, and so when this goes in, you remember this is your number pad on this side here. So when this goes in, it's got to go this way. So you just got to remember that when you're putting them in, you've got to put it in the right way, otherwise everything will be back to front and you may have issues. So I'll plug this in. Right, okay, so that's got all our pins in, so we'll get some power, and we'll also plug in the video as well. So video, and the audio. Now I'll move these screws out the way so I don't knock them everywhere. Actually, I have a bag here. I'm going to put them all in the bag. I'm just a bit worried about losing them, so I don't have any this size. I should actually look at getting some of this size. I've got the size I need for the case screws, but I don't have these ones. I might measure these up, and when I order the case screws, I might see about getting spares of these as well. The thing is, you've got to remember they are a small self-tapping screw, and the heads do go in them after a while. The other thing I may look at is getting the self-tappers of these and the machine ones that go into the board, because quite a few of these I've gotten over time and they've had screws missing out of the boards, so I'd like to get those to do that. So I may measure those up, and the ones where the board's screwed down, and get some of those, and if I get 50 of each, they're there for spares. I'm bound to find something else that'll use them. Right, so that's done, so that's all in. So we'll now put the power on, and I'll see if I can get this to sit in properly so it doesn't muck around. I might have to pop this board out and just check the connectors underneath, but I think they're fine. 99% of the time it's the holes in here And this is a very hard plastic, and because then the copper inside there, and what happens is it expands and gets bigger, and then it gets sloppy on those pins. It's not a really great idea for a power connector, so sometimes you had to end up wedging something on the top of it, like putting tape on it, and then as you push it in, it pushed it down. So it's not good for the socket, but yeah, so that didn't turn on. So now if I jiggle that around a little bit, you can hear that I'm just gently tapping on that power cable, so it's definitely a dodgy socket. I'll just zoom yours back out. So it's definitely a it's here. So as you can hear, the PC is booting up, and that's to do with this power connector. So I might find a little bit of paper or something to stick in under there to push that down, so that we get a good connection, so I can test this keyboard, because I don't want it cutting on, off, on, off, on, off. It's not good for the board. Get something. I might just, actually this thin blade screwdriver might do the job. Yeah, that's not doing anything now. So I know what I'll do is I'll go through to my list. So it was the enter key, definitely not working. That one, that says J. J? I don't know why that's. Oh no, that's a square bracket. Sorry, the square bracket. That's the ampersand, which is not working. Oh, that's the enter. Now, if I press straight down on it, I get nothing. If I do it on a bit of an angle, I get an enter. Yeah, I definitely think it is these pads that have got the issue. I'll swing you around so you can actually see the screen, okay? Right, so if I push the key straight up and down, I get nothing. And the cursor's over here. If I go on an angle, but not all the time, here we go. If I go on an angle, I get it. The same as with the enter key underneath it. See, I get that. So I wonder if the others will do the same. 4, 5, those are the ones that wouldn't work. 7, see, that's straight down, nothing. Coming on an angle, coming on an angle. So that to me says that there is something. That one doesn't do anything no matter what I do, nor does that one. That one. That one does. That one's going up and down. That one's not doing anything. So I wonder if there's something on those pads. Okay, so I'm bringing you back now. With all that, I'm thinking it's probably something to do with these pads down here. And I'll just bring it back up into the screen so you can see. So it's these pads underneath the little rubber membranes. It looks like there is, because if I go on a funny angle, I can get a connection. So I wonder if I need to give these a good clean with isopropyl. And I'll only do from here across, because it's only these two keys and then the ones up here that are giving me the issue. I think I'll give those a good clean with isopropyl and cotton buds, and then we'll have another go and see if it works. And if it works, that's fixed this problem. Can go back together. Can all be screwed up, And then what I'll do, this is probably one of the ones I'm going to look at moving on and rehoming. So I'll get this one all buttoned up and put away, and we'll look at finishing off the other Spectra video, which has the video problem, and that may be the VDP, or it could be RAM. So but we've got to look from over the back here, so the signals from here, where they go from here into here, whether it is here or whether it is through some of this logic before it gets to here, and we'll just see if there's anything going on there or not. I'll get the IPA. I've got to go to the other room and get that because my little bottle had a hole in it, my white one, and it damn near all evaporated away except for a little bit. And I've used a little bit which I had in the little bottle, which was this one here. That's my little bottle, and that's empty, so I need to get my big, I've got a big 4-5 litre one down the back room I want to grab. So I'll go and grab that, and then I will dig out the cotton buds and that, and then we'll go through cleaning this. Alrighty, so I'll see you shortly. Right, back now. So got me bottle of IPA. It's a 5 litre bottle, and it was cheap. It wasn't that dear. I looked at some of the hardware stores, and it was cheaper for me to go online and buy it and get it shipped to me than it was to buy from a local hardware, and that was including the freight. What I'll do is, I haven't opened this one yet. I'll open it up and I'll put a bit into my bottle, and then we use that to clean the pads under here, because it needs to be clean IPA, because if it's not clean, what will happen is if there's any impurities on it, it'll get on the pads, and if it gets on the pads, it's going to put a film on it, and that could be what's happened to these, is they may have gotten something on their pads and it's caused an issue. So right, so I got that there, cotton buds. Now we get these in a plastic container. They're popped up when you get them, but I buy the refills in the soft plastics, and I just put them into here because it's handy to have, and it's a nice closable box so you can keep the dust and that out. So I'll grab a couple of these. The only thing I don't really like is now gone to a wooden stem on them, and I find when you're getting in there, sometimes they break very, very easily. I liked the plastic ones. The other nice thing with they used to have a plastic one, and it was hollow in the center, so it was really good if you're spraying stuff and you wanted to get a very fine jet into something. They were really good, but very hard to come by. They were a little about the same size, or maybe a little bit smaller than what you get on your CRC spray cans and that, the little wee tube that comes on the top, sort of that type of thing. It was really, really handy. Put a little bit of IPA in our lid into here, and then what I'll do is I just gently peel this back, and you'll feel it sounds like it's stuck down, but it's not, and that's just the way the rubber reacts when it sticks to the tops of these. Now if you need to, get a set of hobby glasses 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. I have up to 4 times ones. I buy them from China, and they're cheap. They're like a couple of bucks a pair, or less if you buy 4 or 5 pairs, and I buy them in 2s, 3s and 4s, and I get them that way for doing close work and checking stuff close, instead of trying to hold a magnifying glass. Stick them on and away you go. So just checking the pads. The pads look okay, but I will give them a clean just in case. So these are gold, so they should be okay. And the cotton bud's still looking clean. It doesn't look like it's got anything on it. Now you guys that might have been following me with the MSX that I repaired for a chappie that asked me if I'd have a look at it for him, and I fixed the FM card for him as well and upgraded them. The Spectra Video, this is a solid PCB. Now, it's an expensive way of making a keyboard, being a solid PCB. This is how they did it back in the day. But as opposed to the MSX, these copper tracks, like the copper pen type of thing, are put across these, and then they have the solder mask put over them so they don't short. This is a far better idea than the way they had it on that MSX with those very fine foily type tracks. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, have a look for the Yamaha MSX in my videos, and you'll actually see that in the end the best way I found was getting self-adhesive copper track. Now, I looked at the ones for repairing circuit boards and they were too fine, so I got some 3mm, and I probably could have gone a little bit thinner, but I found the 3mm stuff I could trim it down and it worked fine. I got it down to about 1.5 mils wide, and that was really good for redoing the tracks on that and fixing that problem, and the keyboard worked fine. So if you want to have a look at how I did that, go and check out that video. But these are all clean now. The underside of this pad, it looks alright, doesn't look too bad, but I'll get another cotton bud. I don't trust which end I was playing with. And then I'll go along and just make sure that these copper pads, these are carbon pads under here, sorry, not coppers. They're a carbon pad. And so what I'll do is I'll go under here and give these a bit of a clean. And I'll just make sure there's nothing on them that could have been causing our problem. So I'll do a couple around it. So what I'm going to do is that one's got a little bit of, that one there had a little bit of something on the very centre of it. And that could be enough to stop it making contact. And I think that was one of the keys I was having problems with. But I'll go over the top of all of these ones. So I know it was all the top ones, except for the outside one. But I will do all of them, because I know it was down to this middle row that wasn't working across here, which was the 4, 5, 6. The 4 and the 5 weren't working. The 6 was, the plus was, the minus was. This is enter down here. And then of course then you had your comma, your colon, your full stop, 0, 1, 2, 3. So those should all be fine. So I'll just go down. The rubber actually looks a bit dirty under here. So I am wondering if there was some mucky stuff floating around that may have gotten onto this and has caused a problem. This keyboard, when I originally done, this is one, as I was saying, was one of the ones from out of the garage, and on the end of this here, I don't know if you can see it, there's some little black bits on it. You mightn't be able to see it. There's some little black bits in the cotton buds, and I'm just wondering if those are the bits that are floating around and have probably caused me an issue. But as I was saying, these were sitting in a garage for quite a while, so I'm just wondering if there's just the bits of dust and stuff floating around and they've gradually worked their way in, and these being damp when I've done them with the isopropyl has caused it to settle on it and cause an issue. So I'll go through and do all these, and I'll go through and give these a good clean. Make sure all the gunk is off it. And this is one of the time consuming things you got to do. The other thing is to look out for hairs. I just found a hair in there. Just things like that, hairs or anything, if they lay across the track, if they're on top of this and they lay across this gold track, it's not going to make a connection. And you may get those options like I did where you're going on an angle and it was working, and that's because you're going behind it. Now what I'm thinking of doing is I'll let this dry, and once it's dry, what I'm going to do is then sit it back on top. I'll power it up and then see if those keys work, and if those keys work, then we'll look at putting it back together again, and that would have fixed our problem that we were having. So I think that's probably the next way to go. So make sure there's no dust on here. And just gently roll this back. I'm just looking for dust specks on the board as I put it down as well. It's around the screw holes you've got to be careful, because there'll be like little bits of circuit board that'll be dropping out of the holes and that. Right, so I'll leave that down, and the top of the keyboard, you can actually see there's a lot of crap on the top here. And I mean, if that works its way through this, it can go through and into the keyboard. It is quite dirty. This, however, doesn't quite look lined up, so I'm just wondering if we can move it over. It's a little bit of finessing to get them in the right place. It's just the holes have all got to line up for the screws and that. So you sometimes just got to finesse it around a little bit to get it in the right place. But there is a lot of muck on the top of this, around these pads and that. And I'm thinking maybe this stuff has been falling down and has gone in and gotten stuck to some of those keys underneath, maybe. With a lot of this stuff too, when you do them, when you go and pull them apart to give them a good clean, generally you would take the keyboard membrane off and give it a wash in some warm water. This has all been done, but I think this is just a lot of dust and stuff that's floating around that's gotten in down onto here, and I just want to clean all that off first. There's quite a bit around where this keyboard was, which was the main one giving me the problems. The enter wasn't working over here, but the thing is the enter over here was working, so I knew that that part of that circuit was working okay, so it more than likely had to have been under here. Well, let's go around and pull off, but yeah, they're getting quite dirty doing this, so there's quite a bit of rubbish on here. And it's another way to help use up this isopropyl so I don't put dirty isopropyl back in the bottle as well. I mean, once this is all done and put back together, it shouldn't be an issue with the keys because it will seal itself. This rubber will actually seal back down, and it shouldn't get any more garbage underneath, but there just seems to be a lot of it on the top here. Now, as I say, this could have been me moving it around over time, because looking at the date, it was 2023 I did the keyboard on the other one, and that one worked fine, so I'm just picking that. Yeah, it probably that And it was earlier this year, if you look on the videos a few months back, that I did the keyboard on this, and it may have been, I think, without looking back on it, I'm pretty sure these were quite dirty inside. There's a lot of dust in them. So that could have been causing me an issue with the little bits floating around that have been getting in and underneath things. Well, that's looking a lot cleaner. That's looking a lot cleaner. Right, what's left of that? Back in there, up there, and I'll chuck those out. So, now with that down, what we'll do is we'll turn it back on, and I'll just see if these keys are going to work. Alright, so 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, 6, 5, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, enter, up, down, left, right, enter, tilde. So those are all working fine now. So that's what it was. I mean, that's how it can be so easy to fix some of these problems. They're not necessarily major. You just got to be careful and take your time. Alright, so I'll screw this all back together. It's just the reverse order of how I took it apart. And put it back, put the case back. Now I've got to get new screws for this one, because these are the rusty screws that are down here. So as I said, what I'll do before I put this back together, I'll measure one of those screws that goes into that, and then the other ones that are over the back here are for the one that has got the video problem, which I need to disconnect the keyboard off of so I can check to see if it's a RAM issue or whether it's a video issue. Now I have to pull out the technical manual, which I have for that, to check where the wiring from here goes after this into there, because I am getting a signal on the header pins here. Whether there's an issue with the amplitude coming out of it or the amount of voltage it's putting out, because it could be a dicky processor in that other board, I don't know. But I'll dig out the technical manual so then I can get the pin out and find out what pins are to have what voltages on them, and just make sure, doubly make sure, that it's getting the right voltages into the ICs and that the RAM chips are getting the right voltages as well. I'll put this all back together and we will carry on from there. So I'll see you shortly. You don't need to see me putting this back together, so I'll do that and see you shortly. Okay, so it's all screwed back in now. All screws are in there. So what I'll do is I'll flip it over, plug it in, and we'll give it one more test to make sure all the keys are working. And if they are, I can put this one aside and wait for the screws to come in. And once that's done, button it up and put it together with a power supply and some other bits and pieces I'll have around, and find it a new home. Right, do that. Power on. Yep, the LEDs are in the right place. Caps lock's working fine. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The keys are all working. That's the stop. Clear screen. Insert. Delete. Escape. No, that's alright. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 0, minus, plus, backspace. Left. Q, W, P, R, T, Y, U, 1, O, P. Left, right, slash. Yep, those are all working fine now. Caps lock, of course. Control. Which is alright. 15, that gives us a capital A, so that's working fine. A, S, T, F, G, H, J, K, L, colon, comma, or top comma, enter. Of course, shift works. Z, X, C, V, B, N, N, left, right, question mark, of course, in shift. That gives us a semicolon, left graphic, A gives us a graphic, right graphics gives us the opposite graphics. So all those keys and spacebar are all working fine. So we'll go up to here. So we'll go down, up, left, right. Left still being a little bit sticky, but if you press it down hard, there might be something to do with that pad. So it may be something else I need to have another look at. I'll come back over here. Minus times plus minus, that was a slash. 7, 8, 9, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 0, comma, full stop, enter. So all that's working fine. The only one is this right key. It's working, but it's not. The more I'm using it, the better it's getting. But I think it's got something to do with that pad. So it may be something I need to have another look at. The other thing is I can always put a note on it saying the arrow key works, but it's a little bit tight to get to work. I could open it up later and have another look at it. It's not something we need to do now. For this point, this one's all going. It just needs a bit of a clean. It's not in bad condition, because I think I gave it a really good clean when I first got it, and I first had a look at it to do the keyboard. So yeah, I think it's all working fine. So I think we can put this one aside, and we'll start to look at a different one.
Stand by for action.
The other thing I'd like to ask is that I have a passion for Spectra Video and the early MSX. Also, to a point, the ColecoVision too. I'm quite passionate with that. The other thing I'd like to ask is, with my passion with these machines, for some time now I've been working on by myself some form of retro version that I have some stuff in the pipeline I've done partial board for. And this is watching a lot of guys that are doing retro builds and that over time. This one is a wee bit more modern, and if anyone is interested, I've done a community page on YouTube under these videos. And if you have a look, there's the information on what I'm doing and what I'd like to do. Programming is not my forte, nor is doing FPGAs and that sort of thing. I'm not up to coding with that sort of stuff. So anybody who would like to give me a hand and get involved with this, I would be very, very grateful for. And we can get in, and I've started up a private GitHub page at this stage. It's only for people working on the machine. What I want to do is, when I've got this all up and going to where I'm happy with it, it will be open source. What I originally would really like to do is to have a machine that's going to have 3 systems at least internally. So the basic specs I will put on the screen, and they will be a Z80 processor, but this is going to be the Z8C or the Z8S 180. Now this is the higher spec Z80, and why I picked this is there's a lot of extra hardware built in, and it is Z80 backwards compatible. I want to put in the 1 meg RAM, because that's the maximum the 180 will address. So we're covering MSX, because the other, what I wanted to do is the 328, the 738 MSX 1.5, but I want to upgrade it to the 2. So we'll have the 738 and a ColecoVision. Maybe the Atom, I don't know how much work is involved with that, but at least a ColecoVision. Going back to the other one, it'll be the Spectra Video with full RAM, floppy drive, CPM support, and it's also going to have mass storage. We'll put serial in it, parallel maybe, but all of that. So it's going to be 40-80 column switchable, etc. So with both the sound chips in it, we're covering all the systems. Now, I'm looking at an 8 meg ROM at the moment. So that's an 8 megabit ROM. That way there'll be room for the 3, possibly 4 or more systems can be loaded into this. What I want to do is make it so that there is a boot system built into it, so that if you want to upgrade something, you can do it via a flash media. So you put it in, it looks for a specific code. If there's a specific code on the flash drive or a specific file on the flash drive, it boots that. It doesn't boot the system, so it won't boot any of the ROMs. So therefore the software will load up, it'll go in, and then it'll come up with a menu, and you can flash the files you want to flash onto it to upgrade software and so forth. I think that's a neat idea for later on, once the 3 systems are going. If anybody wants to add another system with the basic hardware, it can be done. So as I was saying, guys, there's lots of information is on the community page on the YouTube channel here. Have a look. If you want to get involved, let me know, and I will contact you or give you my contact details, and you can contact me. But yeah, I'm looking for people who are a little bit more knowledgeable than myself in what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing right. With that all said and done, I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope some of you who are interested in doing this will jump on board and help me out with it. It is something I've had in the pipelines for quite some years now, but I'm only just starting to get to the point where I'm finding there is better hardware to do it. So guys, I don't know what you think of that, but the board is partially designed. I'm just working on some other bits and pieces now, and as I say, I'm just looking for people who are interested in doing this. That's enough from me for now and prattling on. So what I will do is I will sign off and say, guys, keep safe out there, and until next time, ciao.